Rulers of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and of Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. We're being broadcast live on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And also in YouTube World. Hello, all. And if you are listening in on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, the thumbs up, by the way, and subscribe button if you want to be told when I'm going to be on air again. And just so you know, y'all, I have noticed that there are a lot more people watching and listening to me on YouTube than there are liking it. So make sure you like it. Hi, Gemini. Hi, Renee. Hi, Cameron. And Blacktree. Hi, Julia. Hope y'all are doing good. I steal you from Brent. Ha, ha, ha. No, Brent and Deb are still going strong over on the Paranormal Portal. They're finishing stuff out. Hi, Woods Wizard. And then on TFR World, I see we've got Big D, 1955, Richie, Hilarious, Psycho Dave. Brent is sort of listening, but not really. And then Magnificent. So hello, hello. Thank you for joining. So, no matter how you are hearing me, do please make sure you stop in and say hello. And I want to thank you again for joining me here on my journey. And I hope you want to continue learning with me. If you do want to support the show, you can check out the Etsy shop. It is www.etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio. That's MTN for Mountain. Thank you. Oh, awesome, Julie. I'm glad Alice is feeling better. And then also the website is www.thespacesbetween.live. Patreon is up and running. I'll include a link in the show notes. And that is the patreon.com / I think it is, the spaces between. So just so you all know, on Patreon, I'll pull it up so I'm actually reading it. And if my voice goes, I don't know what we'll do. We'll figure something out. And did I do it right? I think I did it right. Yay, Cameron! I broke something. Yeah, it's the spaces between on patreon.com or something like that. And drat. I guess I have to actually log in. The joy of the internet at your fingertips, you can do all sorts of things. And I'm not going to do it that way because, you know what? I am not multi-talented enough to figure this out. So, cell phone shortcut. It's kind of like, cell phones. 20 years ago, everybody knew everybody's phone number. Your best friend's number, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, anybody, all of them. You knew what the phone numbers were. Weren't too worried about it because 555-1234, whatever. And everybody remembered all those numbers, remember? And nowadays, though, everything's saved in our smartphones because they're smarter than we are. And yeah, it seems like they remember everything for us, so why should we, right? And so yeah, the tears. I have tears. Anyways, so no, I don't remember anything anymore because it's all on my phone, or I have 6 notebooks laying around the house. So Cameron, you have one specifically for your Book of Shadows. That's awesome. I have 6 and I take them everywhere with me. I have been doing a chant which I don't are for a ritual thing that I'm going to be doing some here in a bit. And yeah, um, not really a ritual, but a charm that I'm going to make. And so this is the words I'm going to say over the charm as I'm doing it and everything. And and I've got it's just basically where I write down the words I'm going to use. So I guess you could say this is my poetry one. Just a good old fashioned spiral notebook. It's purple. So yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, the Patreon. So I've got five levels. It's earth, water, fire, air, and spirit. With various different the lowest levels $1. I wanted to do it free, so basically anybody could join up, but they wouldn't let me do it for free for that first level. It had to be $1. That's $1 a month. So if you wanted to subscribe, it's $12. Anyways, there's different benefits listed in there, and so it's to support the YouTube channel, the podcast, and that book that I mentioned. Yeah, so Patreon subscribers and followers and stuff will be getting bits and pieces of the book first. Bum bum bum, and such. So yeah, hey Weird Desk and Megaphone Man. Hello, hello. So yeah, y'all are joining. Thanks. Call line is open here on TFR World. It is 213-233-3998. Or if you are across the pond in the UK and just waking up or just getting home from the pub, it is 44203-393-2871. So, as I mentioned and as my headline said, I am talking about not magic today. And I don't mean like not, like shame on you, not gonna do it. I mean not. K-N-O-T. Not. Wood knots. No, just knots. Anyways, mostly I wanted to talk about it because of this charm that I'm working on. I wanted to bind the words and my intent into a charm. And so I wanted to set that information or that intent into something tangible that I could then have someone wear, like myself or another person, as a form of protection. And don't mind the clattering. It's just a good old cough drop. I did try some wine. I had some elderberry wine, and it was good, but I needed something a little bit more, not so boozy. Anyways, not magic, just is very, very basic. It's a very old form of magic. It's still very widely practiced today, and just you're basically tying knots in cords or other tieable material to symbolize your spell work. Pretty straightforward, actually. And now, traditionally, knots are considered protective, so think sailors. They used to use knots to secure things like sails, anchors, materials, so if they're cargo, tying them down onto the deck or in the hold, that kind of thing. And then knots are also associated with secret keeping, bindings, and love. They're pretty straightforward way to cast a spell, a ritual, a binding, or even for those that cannot have an altar because they're still in the broom closet, they can even be symbolic for an altar. And it's just very, very unobtrusive. So yeah, I do need some elderberry tincture. I might still have some elderberry syrup that's in my fridge from last year, but maybe fermented. I don't know. I haven't even looked in the bottle lately. But I do have some elderberry cordial from like 2 years ago that yeah, I may have to invest in or pop open a bottle of that. But I've been hoarding that stuff like nobody's business because that's mine. But anyways, so when it comes to knots, not magic, the cords used are generally 9 inches or 9 feet long, and 9 is a symbolic number. Sorry, because 3 is often considered a very sacred number. So 3 times 3. Actually, my little chant that I've got going on here, yep, I started off with 3 times 3. So, the history of not magic Um, honestly, in Mesopotamia, uh, one of the older civilizations that we know have known to exist according to science, um, is where they say that not magic originated. Um, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But basically, they're saying that they use the knots to lock things up, to do um, man, this is a much better article than I started off. Um, seriously, blah. We're gonna skip that. So, anyways, um, there's used by Egyptian magicians to tie knot charms, like when wrapping the mummies and all that stuff, and closing the tombs of the pharaohs. They would actually tie knots and seal them with lead and everything to hold the doors and everything shut as a way to do it. When it comes to hand fastings, you're tying the knot. I mean, how pagan can you be? You're tying the knots. Talk about something that's been totally mainstreamed. That is very, very much a pagan origination, tying the knot. And the principles, yeah, seriously, really, really basic. You can tie any number of knots that you feel is appropriate, just so you know. But generally, the principle is you tie 9 knots in a certain pattern. And then as you tie the knots, you're binding your intent, and therefore the spell actually into the cord. And then the cord is kept until the spell is worked. Or you release the knots. Now, the knots can be released over any particular period of time. It could be moon cycles, it could be days, it could be hours. It all depends on what the spell was created for. Often, sailors who were very, very dependent upon the wind would use knot magic as a type of charm. So as they untied, when they're getting ready to sail, they tie knots for wind and proper sailing weather. And so as they untied a knot, is releasing their intent out into the elements to have the wind pick up and, fill their sails with air so they wouldn't be caught stuck dead in the water with, sails that very, very empty of air, because that was very much a hazard back then, because they couldn't just, drop the motor and drive away. Often there wasn't enough people on the boat because the boats weren't that big to have enough oars to move the boat very far. And even if they did, rowing a boat is extraordinarily hard work, especially when you're talking about something really big, which is why a lot of different civilizations actually use slaves, because, hey, who cares about slaves, right? And they stick them in the hold and ignore them and just flash some water at them. So, if that isn't an option, being dead in the water, no wind, very bad. You run out of water supplies out in the middle of nowhere with literally nothing. It's that bad. So, now, you can, to bring something into your life, you may want to make your knots for your spell during the new moon. And then you maybe keep the cord safe for 9 days, or for a while. And then 9 days before the full moon, you start undoing a knot each night, so that the whole thing is unraveled on the night of the full moon. Now, if you're trying to banish something from your life, then you would tie your knots right after the full moon. And then as the moon is waning, you start 9 days before the new moon, you start untying the knots, and then you let, everything just be unraveled on the night of the new moon. So really, truly, just like, remember friendship knots or friendship bracelets that people used to do in the 80s, I think it was? Yeah, it was the 80s. Often you're making those bracelets for your friends. You're building your goodwill and building your friendship. You're going to gift them something. You're tying those knots. Didn't even realize you were doing knot magic, did you? Now, the type of materials can vary. Often we really want to use natural fibers. I mean, seriously, natural fibers. But depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your knot magic, you might want to change that up. Um, so I was reading one article. It was funny. If you don't want your significant other to cheat on you, you tie one of their socks in a knot and you throw it under your bed. So I don't know if that works. I've never tried it. Never really had a problem, but yeah. I thought that was funny. It was a funny thing. Researching things when it comes to paganism and witchcraft can also be quite amusing because all of the interesting random stories that people have when it comes to when researching stuff. It's just it's interesting. Pulling up a couple of these articles that I was looking at just because it was interesting. Yeah, I'm not gonna tie a string around their neck if they cheat. Black Tree, you're silly. I understand though. Um, so let's see. Knots for joining. That's the very very basic one. So this one here, you can grab rope, cord, twine, silk. Some people use their underwears. If that's your jam, I suppose you can do it. You just tie it in a knot together and throw it under your bed. And it's a way to, keep that relationship nice and solid under the bed. But then if the knot comes undone or, someone tosses the knot up in the trash, if you want your sexy undies tied in a knot under the bed, yeah, alrighty, go with it. But like hand fastings, though, often you use a cord for whatever it is, and you can tie one knot. This generally means my love for you. 2 knots is to each we shall be true, and 3 knots is yours, mine, ours. Basically, you're saying that we're together. So often in today's society, if a relationship ends, then and you're trying to break a hand fasting, you actually have to do that in reverse to break the knots, to break the hand fasting. But tying knots is just pretty doggone simple. Funny story about me: when I was like 4 or 5, absolutely fascinated with knots. I would tie anything together: ropes, shoelaces, belts, towels. I don't know. It was my dad at work nights, and so he'd come home middle of the night, kind of thing, and never failed. He would trip and faceplant in the living room because I would have tied all of the chairs in the living room together with knots. I was just spiderwebbed it out, and it was a good thing. Yeah, it was a mess. I don't do that anymore. So yeah, not like that anyways. Funny story. When it comes to therapy or shadow work, even, knots are very, very good. Because if you do, if you tie a knot for each of the things that you want to work on, so you start off with your 9-foot cord or your 9-inch cord, whatever it is, and you tie, maybe it's money stress, you get a knot. Maybe it's relationship stress, you get a knot. Maybe it's a job issue, knot. So you can, tie different things in knots. And then once you get all those knots for each of those different things, you keep tying it up until it's all a big, just snarly, matted mess. And then you take it outside and you hang it in the weather. So it gets rained on or snowed on or whatever, and it dries and gets wet and dries and gets wet and dries and gets wet, and then so basically it's a mess. It's going to be hard to pick apart. So each of those things that you feel you need to work on, then you should start picking at the knots, and you're thinking about each of those challenges or each of those issues that you have that you're trying to work on. And as you pick a knot apart and you slowly pick it apart, and it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen just overnight. Because when we have things that we really need to work on, they don't get fixed with a snap of the fingers. It just doesn't happen that way. I'm sorry, folks, there is no fairy godmother who's going to come along and wave her magic wand. Actually, I have one I'm working on for Minnie Paisley. She's not going to wave her magic wand and say, everything is fixed. Because that's not the way it works. Instead, take your time and work on those things. And as you're picking those knots apart, imagine those issues or visualize those issues fading away and becoming reduced. So it's depression or family or relationships or coming out of the broom closet, maybe coming out of the closet to your family, any of those things, as you're picking those knots apart, let your intention out into the universe that you're going to accomplish these things. You're going to take care of them. You're going to no longer be worried about them. As part of your shadow work, as part of your therapy or whatever. And as those knots slowly come apart, each of those issues should slowly start to fade. And it'll slowly get better. Now, again, remember, everything takes time. And do your own research. And it take time, take a deep breath when you're doing all this. So, throughout history, you've heard of, say, a Gordian knot. And so the Gordian knot actually comes from a story in Macedonia. So I'm still sticking with knots here, folks. Macedonian conqueror in 333 BC marched his army into the Phrygian capital of Gordium, which is in modern-day Turkey today. And once he got there, he found an ancient wagon. Its yoke was tied with what a Roman historian described as several knights tied together and entangled so tightly you couldn't tell how anything was fastened or how to untie it. And according to tradition and mythology, the wagon had once belonged to Gordius, who was the father of the celebrated King Midas. And an oracle declared that any man who could unravel the elaborate knots was destined to become ruler of all of Asia. So according to the legend, of course, Alexander, also known as Alexander the Great, was seized with an ardent desire to untie the Gordian knot. So after wrestling with it for a bit and having no success, he stepped back and was really frustrated. Says it doesn't make a difference how these are going to be loosened up. Drew a sword there and sliced the knot in half with a single stroke. So, there was another version, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Basically, so the Gordian knot basically became a shorthand for intricate or an intractable. I really can talk, guys. Obstacle. And that Gordian knot has been shown up in many different parables and stories throughout time. Shakespeare even used it in his play Henry V. But basically it's used also as a way to find a creative or decisive solution to overcoming an insurmountable problem. So you've got this big complex issue, and you just cut it with a knife. So when I talked about doing your shadow work and you're going to tie everything all up together as in a knot, and you're just going to work on it slowly, you can't wave a magic wand and fix it. Technically you can by cutting it with a sword, but most of us don't really carry around a two-handed broadsword to cut through things like that. So just work things slowly. You'll have much better success because, honestly, when Alexander the Great did that, he died at the age of 32 from just, I don't know, he died young, so I don't know. He was a very complicated kid with mommy issues. So, obviously his issues were not fixed by the single stroke of the sword, so take your time and unravel your knots. Just reading the comments and chat. So Cameron, thank you for sticking to YouTube videos and such for research, because I totally get it. You don't know what to look into, and you can really see how passionate people are or how interested or invested they are in their YouTube videos. Totally get it. Wikipedia is actually pretty good online. excuse me. There's some other websites at Patheos, Patheos is pretty good. So yeah, trust your gut though as you're doing your research. Don't be afraid to ask. Send me an email. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY if you have questions. And yeah, if you need some clarification or direction, by all means, let me know. And if I don't have an answer, I'll happily do the research to help you find the answer, or I will send you off to someone who does have it. Speaking of, tomorrow night, Deb Varner, who is on Paranormal Portal tonight, is going to be on my show, and we are going to be talking about signs, because they're everywhere, right? And what is a sign? What should you interpret as a sign? Not all things are created equal. We are already at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to take a break, pay the bills, and we will be right back. And I will see you shortly.
of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and of Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are adventuring off into the spaces between. And we are live all over the place. TFR live, so we're there. We're on YouTube, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, all those places. And then my producer has been back on the job, which is awesome. And I have podcast material posting now too. So any place you catch your podcasts, whether it's Google or Android or Apple, you should be able to access the podcast too. And yeah, he's he's been a busy guy catching up on stuff. So anyway, so not magic. There's just a little bit more to go over. Just really, truly, basically, if you can tie a knot, you can tie a ritual or your intent. Even tying your shoelaces. To be honest, you want to have a good day. Put that intent in your shoelaces as you're tying your shoe. You want to have good luck on that job interview. Put that intent in your tie as you're tying your tie, or scarf, or hair tie, or you want to keep your bread fresh and you got a twisty tie on your bread. Put that intent as you put the twisty tie on. Some things are limited by science because, to be honest, in my world, I really do think magic is just unexplained science. So the explained science will catch up and, actually, spoil your bread. So careful with that one. But since there's been a lot of study. There's a lot of color association when it comes to paganism and witchcraft, and so just kind of real quickly, just these colors are very similar throughout all of the rituals that we might do, whether it's candles or charms or cords or even our clothing, honestly. So just keep in mind, do your research before you pick your colors, just like your flowers or other herbs or anything when you're doing your like kitchen witchcraft or herbal type crafting. So colors, when it comes to your cordage, white generally means purity. Ladies in the white dresses when they're getting married, same kind of thing. Truth, sincerity, spirituality. That's why so many priests wear white robes of some sort. They also white also represents the goddess, peace, higher self, virginity. And white is also, honestly, a substitute for any other color. So if there's something that you want to accomplish in a ritual and you just don't have the right color for it, you can substitute white. Red is generally strength or health, vigor, sexual love, energy, passion. Red is a very passionate color generally. Also, courage, the element of fire, career goals, lust, blood of the mood, vibrancy, survival, very strong emotions or very strong energies. Light blue is often tranquility, understanding, patience, calm, wisdom, fortune, opening, blocked communication. So if you're going for that job interview, if you're wearing a light blue tie or a light blue shirt, often that is going to inspire a confidence in you and peace with working with you. Dark blue, though, is generally very much a color for impulsiveness or depression. Also, though, for protection and creativity and reassurance and spiritual inspiration. So kind of a broad spectrum there. Green is generally finance. We associate green with money here in the U.S. especially. Fertility, growing green things. Luck, Earth Mother. Hello, Gaia, Earth, green. Physical healing, monetary success, abundance, tree and plant magic. You're very connected with the earth. Personal goals, growth, that kind of thing. Gold is generally associated with wealth or the god, the primary god. Winning, safety, power of the masculine, happiness, playful humor. Yellow, which is slightly different than gold. The sun, who symbolizes the sun. Intelligence, learning, memory, logical imagination, breaking mental blocks, and selling yourself. So if you're a sales job, wear some yellow. Yellow flower in your hair, yellow flower in your buttonhole, whatever it is. That just... yellow is a really primary color used in fast food chains for that reason. Brown, hesitation, uncertainty, neutrality, influencing a friendship, and special favors. Gold, a goldish yellow, generally is for attraction, persuasion, charm, and confidence. Pink is good for honor, romantic love, morality, planetary goodwill. You know what? There's a lot here. I'm probably going to put it on the website this weekend, maybe. You know what? If I could wave a magic wand and make a spell, it would make my day last a little bit longer, or me have a little bit more energy to get everything done that I want to get done, by golly. Pink is also a healing of emotion, peace, affection, romance, partnerships of emotional maturity, nurturing, caring. Black is generally associated with evil or loss, confusion, discord, but also protection, repelling negativity, binding, and shape-shifting. So if you're trying to do a binding spell, which I want you to be very cautious about binding spells, and think about it. Buttonhole. I did not say buttonhole. I don't know. I said binding. Black tree is hearing things, maybe. Trying to think what I may have said that sounded like buttonhole. I gotta tell you. Purple is generally tension, ambition, business progress, power, influencing people in high places. Third eye, psychic ability, spiritual power, self-assurance, hidden knowledge. Purple is often considered the color of royalty, so it's a very dominant, power. You're trying to influence people. Silver or gray for cancellation, neutrality, stalemate, telepathy, clairvoyance, intuition, clairaudience, psychometry, dream work. Astral energies, female power, communication, the goddess. Okay, apparently I said buttonhole and all that. I don't know. If you're working on your dreams and you really are trying to remember your dreams, maybe do just a simple set of knots or a series of knots using gray cord or gray ribbon and stick it under your pillow to help you remember your dreams or do energy work. Orange is good for encouragement, adaptability, stimulation, attraction, business goals, property deals, ambition, career goals, just general success, justice, legal matters, selling, action. Again, orange is a very dominant color in a lot of fast food joints because they want to sell you something. Greenish yellow, often associated with sickness, cowardice, anger, jealousy, and discord. Copper is generally associated with passion, money goals, professional growth, fertility in business, and career maneuvers. And, cord magic is often something that we just don't do a lot of. Most people don't realize that there is some magic to it because it's so simple. It's not complex. It's not complicated. It's not convoluted or any of those other things. And it's really, we forget that so much of magic and ritual work isn't that complicated. I mean, seriously. And I have a caller all. How long has he been on hold? He's only been on hold for 5 minutes. So, one moment here. And hello, Minnesota. Are you there? Hello?
Yes, I am Paisley. Thank you so much for taking my call. This is Nace,
Hey,
or they
Nace.
also call me Kevin.
Hey, Nace. No worries.
I wanted to share with you as and it always sounds weird when I say it, as a practicing Native American. We have kind of not magic, for semantics reasons of our own, and we call some of them we call prayer ties. Are you familiar with these at all?
Not so much on the Native American, but I know like in the Jewish folk, generally they have the prayer shawls. Often are very knotted, crocheted, or they have it's like a scarf almost, or depending on where they're at. Even with the folks that um, follow the Quran, they may have something similar. It's a braided or knotted, woven type of fabric that they wear for prayer specifically.
Well, the interesting, the Native Americans are really concerned when it comes to their ropes, and to cut a rope is is kind of a ill omen, and so the the knots that the indigenous people or my ancestry use are a lot of kind of knots that are tight as can be, but there's tricks to them to where they can be pulled a certain way and then they'll just release. And one of the things what we do when we do our prayer ties is they're just little square pieces of fabric, maybe about like 2 inches square, and we use kinnikinnick or a sema or tobacco, and we put that in the center of the square and we fold it a certain way, and then we hold it, and then we would take string or rope or a tie, and we would do a certain type of loop knot around it, and then we would tie it tight, and then we would go on to the next one, and we would do the same thing. Um, the ideology of it is that, like you were talking about the colors, you would use different colors for your material that you are putting your tobacco in. But then also, as you're sitting there doing this, you're putting your intentions or your energy or what we call manado, your spirit, the unknown, into it. And then that's kind of your intentions to help solidify the prayer tie. And then depending on the specifics of the ceremony of the ritual will depend upon how many of these prayer ties that you'll make. But I've heard, people doing up to, I think the largest one that I know of is 360
Oh my,
or 364.
that's a lot.
Uh, have you been to a powwow before?
I have been to a powwow. I've been to a couple of them. They're
Well, you
fun.
know how like the powwow grounds have the circle?
Yes.
Okay, and then if you think of the circle kind of like metaphorically like a clock, well, in the indigenous people of dividing that circle, it can be divided 360 or 364 different ways by um, um, certain ways of drawing the circle and starting to dissect it. And also because of their 13, because they used to follow the 13 moon
Mhm.
calendar
Yes.
of a year, and because of all of those days that are within the year, because they vary, they vary upon year to year depending on the cycle and depending on the dance that our Earth is having with all of the other celestial bodies, i.e., planets and the such, that it will change our calendar yearly. And it's funny because if you look at the indigenous peoples and their calendar system, it was far more complex and more accurate than what we try to do with our Gregorian or
Yes.
even like the Julian calendar.
Hmm. So there's a comment in the chat room wanted to know why Kinnickinnick.
Well, Kinnickinnick is just a name that they give it. Um, each individual will have their own blend for their pipes. Um, uh, you, Semantics, you hear the expression a peace pipe,
Yes.
but we call it an applogin in our language. And in our applogin, what we fill our pipe with is called kinnickinnick. And the descriptive of kinnickinnick is a mixture of plants that you use to do your rituals and your prayers.
All right, that makes sense.
My blend, what I do is I'll do tobacco and some oshka and some red willow and a few other things, because they didn't use straight tobacco,
No.
like people would think of today.
Yes. Well, it was different. We tobacco wasn't as readily available, 200 years ago, 300 years ago as it is today, for instance. And so that was Don that asked, by the way, in the chat room. Longbeard, Mr. Longbeard joined us, and then I googled Kinnickinnick just real quick, and it just said it's a herbal smoking mixture, traditionally made of leaves or barks, and the recipe varies as do the uses, from social to spiritual to medicinal. So yeah. Um, and Kinnickinnick is also the name of a berry here in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Now, are you part of
But
the?
yeah, I just wanted to share that with that because, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Somebody in the chat room, Cameron asked, which tribe are you with? Are you from?
Um, in our language, we call ourselves Anishinaabe.
Mm-hmm.
The French called us Ojibwe, and the English called us Chippewa. We were also known as the Algonquian language group. But if you would ask them of what they called themselves Anishinaabe. But as the frontiersmen and the Manifest Destiny occurred, because division is conquest, they went to the Anishinaabe and they said, oh, we're going to call you Ottawa, or we're going to call you Blackfoot, or we're going to call you Potawatomi, or we're going to call you Winnebago or Chippewa. Or, they gave us all these different names, but we were saying, no, we're Anishinaabe.
Yeah.
But I believe, my theory on it is, because the Anishinaabe people encompassed almost 1/3 of North America, they didn't want history to show that such a huge, large group of people were just basically wiped out.
Yes.
From the time of Columbus to the time of Plymouth Rock, there's an estimated over 90% of the Anishinaabe people died from ailments and diseases and sicknesses that were brought over from the early frontiersmen.
Yeah, there was a lot of things not done correctly back then. I spent some time in Minnesota, over by and I worked with the Red Lake Band of the Chippewa often. They're in the upper northwest of Minnesota. So I've been in Fargo, Grand Forks, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, actually, I live across the river from Fargo. in Moorhead,
Oh, very cool.
and the Red Lake Reservation is the reservation north of the reservation that I'm enrolled in, the White Earth Reservation.
Okay, very cool.
Right. Well, I really have been enjoying
Oh,
your
thank you.
in your show, and I've been catching it a lot lately. And thank you. I wish they would give you more time, but I think it would be, if I may humbly suggest, that would be awesome. Is that if you did your first hour on TFR, and then kind of like sometimes how they do on Paranormal Portal when they go beyond and do like the after hours show and just did a YouTube stream, because I would definitely enjoy staying up a little bit later and listening to what you have to share.
Well, thank you, Nase. And I'm working on some more stuff that down the road we'll be doing some more YouTube, and I want to do a roundtable type thing as a group. But that's probably after first of the year. So have people call in, do video conferencing as a group. I think that'd be fun. So yeah, it's a
Nice. And I would like to talk to you at some point too, and talk to you about your research and compared to some of my research about the Salem witch trials, and how a lot of those individuals that were being professed as witches were actually learning and working with the Anishinaabe people and learning of the new healing techniques of the New World.
okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Nacy, for calling in. I do have
All right, well,
another.
I'll let you go so you can
Go.
finish. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Toodles.
Hi. Looks like I have a whole nother caller. Oh no, I lost him. Shoot. Call back right away. Apparently, I'm not very good at having more than one caller on the line. So, um, if I hung up on you, I'm sorry. Call back, please. I didn't mean to. So yes. So yeah, just real quick, because yeah, call back, come back. It was someone from Michigan. Anyways, I'm watching the call board. Yeah, we've only got like 3 minutes left. So, with the whole Patreon thing and the website up and kind of running, I'm still getting some bugs in there. Technology is not always my friend. Sometimes I really should be just given like a wooden spoon and a pot and just left to go bang my pot in the corner. And but yeah, for the first of the year with the whole Patreon thing and such, there's at a certain level. I've got things set up with Zoom video conferencing, and in the whole world here. Um, I am hoping to do kind of a roundtable where everybody kind of calls in via video conference or phone conference, and I can stream it live on YouTube. And that I will it'll be just some bonus material, some extra stuff. I don't know that I will be anywhere near as prolific as Mr. Don and Mr. Brent are on Paranormal Portal, because they are just pretty wildly phenomenal, and doing 7 nights a week. I don't know how the heck they do it. Um, excuse me. I have a dog in my space, and he's a bad dog. Um, so I think that'll be fun and interesting. There'll be more content. Working on the book. Working on more art stuff to go on the Etsy shop and stuff. Um, um, let's see, what else was there. There's other things. Oh, Deb's going to be on tomorrow night, so come back tomorrow night at 9. And if we carry over, we carry over. If we don't, we don't. We'll figure it out then. And we'll be talking about signs. What are signs would look for? And caller, I'm sorry that I lost you from Michigan. Call back tomorrow. Or send me an email. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. WILDEPAISLEY @gmail.com. And the website is www.thespacesbetween.live. Etsy is www.etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio, and MTN from Mountain. So yeah, thanks for joining me tonight, y'all. Talking about not magic, and I don't know. It's just really, really interesting, simple, basic. Often we forget the basics because they are simple. They're the basics. So I do believe Nikki is up next on TFR. So yeah, it'll be good. She's got good material. And I will see you tomorrow night, live here, TFR, and on YouTube. And y'all have a good night. Merry meets, merry parts, and merry meet again.
Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done.